Greetings, everyone, and welcome to I Got Next. I am Chad. You already know that. Let's get right into it. We've got the NFL 2022 season already underway. The Bills and the Rams have already played that not so dramatic game out there in Los Angeles where the Bills just took it to them, really kind of stamping their approval on their status as one of the favorites to win the Super Bowl this year. They did nothing to disappoint or to dissuade anyone from picking them to go all the way. But what I want to talk about is the upcoming game for Monday night as Russell Wilson takes his new team, the Broncos, into Seattle for what looks like it should be a pretty easy victory. I think there may be a little more to consider with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take you through a theory that I developed over the last 15 or so years and just kind of break down how that may give us a little bit of a window into how to look at this game a little differently from what we would conventionally look at one of these big matchups. So the Broncos go into that game. They're favored by a touchdown on the road. That's the first warning sign right there for me. Then you look at just some of the standard stats that anybody can pull up. This is showing up in articles all over the place. If you go back to 2003, the Seahawks have won 17 of their last 19 home openers, including 12 consecutive wins. The first time they lost in 13 games was last year when they lost in overtime to the Titans. This is also going to be the first time in franchise history that the Seahawks open their season at home with a Monday Night Football game. So, I mean, I know that's rare anyway. Like, not very many teams. You know, it's a fairly rare thing where you open your season at home on Monday Night Football because there's only one Monday Night Football. Well, actually, sometimes there's two. But anyway, it's not a standard thing. But it is another piece of the puzzle that there's going to be an atmosphere there. Seattle's already notorious for that 12th man. I think it could be really interesting, but there's some other stuff that we've got to dig into in just a second. But I'm going to finish breaking this game down just in the standard take range first. So it's a rematch, obviously, of that big Super Bowl where the Broncos just got smoked by the Seahawks 43-8. Back in, was that Super Bowl 47, I think? So just, or 48, Super Bowl 48, when Peyton Manning was there. So there's a lot of extra intrigue with that. Russell Wilson going back for his first time with, playing against his old team and his old coach and his old fans in Seattle after 10 years with the Seahawks. And the last piece to that puzzle is the starting quarterback on the other side is Geno Smith. I don't know how Geno Smith is still in the league at this point, but he is. And you would think, well, that makes it to where there's no chance Seattle's going to win this game. And that's where I would even further beg to differ because of what I'm about to tell you about some of what just happens to go down or seems to go down when it comes to these big matchups. So let's start breaking it down. This seems like a no-brainer. Take Denver, take Russell Wilson, trying to prove himself against his old team, and give away that touchdown to the Seahawks and that mediocre team that they are bringing to the field. But let's go back a little bit. So I'm going to take you first to like how this theory kind of was born. A friend of mine and I were playing fantasy football back in the early 2000s, and you draft people, and a lot of times some of the value is some of these teams that are either far away from you geographically, so there's not a whole lot of buy-in from other owners where they're really excited about these guys. It's sometimes the guys in your regional area go for a premium because everybody wants their local hero on their team, on their fantasy team, especially if they're gung-ho. So sometimes you can go find value in places like Arizona, for instance. And so, whether it was Adrian Morrell or Michael Pittman, Rob Moore, David Boston, you go down the list, there were a bunch of different guys who we had on our rosters. And we would always get frustrated because some weird shit just seemed to always happen in Arizona. And so we started thinking, Arizona's right there, not far from Las Vegas. I wonder if there's not maybe some influence there, or at least maybe we get some stuff hyped up that doesn't deserve to be hyped up because the Vegas influence there, and maybe we buy into stuff that we shouldn't buy into, even if you don't want to say that the outcome of games is being affected intentionally, right? So see, I have the beautiful city of Las Vegas in the background. I've got my wonderful Las Vegas shirt. I know we got a lot of folks who watch this channel from Raider Nation. Shout out to Wasted Talent and Raider Nation Unlimited. We love those guys, and that's part of the family. All the guys in Raider Nation and the whole family that he has brought along with him over here. But we cannot deny that there have been some influences in some other sports. We've seen it with some Arizona State basketball players. UNLV had some issues. There's some history there. So it's not completely far-fetched to think that there may be something not so, upfront and honest about things going on. So I had this speculation about Vegas, right? So the theory just kind of grew from there, and we started to notice a pattern with some traps that seem to be set by odds makers in Vegas. Traps that it looks like this bet is just way too easy. It's like they're giving you the money for free, and lo and behold, you're left still holding the bag at the end of the day. And so what we wanted to do, and I don't mean a bag of cash, you know what I mean by holding the bag. It's like this, you are not enjoying life on Sunday or Monday night after these games. So the one that jumped out, and I'm going to pull this one up here, was, so I put a playlist together, and that playlist is going to be included. It'll be in the description below here for this broadcast, and it's going to be always on. It's a playlist that'll be on the Men of Order YouTube playlists. So what I want to show you guys is we're going to start with this Atlanta-New Orleans game. So just to give you the setup, this is right in the prime of Michael Vick's career. This is the Run DVD era with TJ Duckett, Warwick Dunn, and Michael Vick. They were damn near running like triple option with that team. It was crazy. Like they had, and I think they still had it was like Algie Crumpler, and they had some weapons on the outside too. And Vick was really dangerous outside the pocket, and they were playing really, really well. Well, that all changed. As I think they were 2-0 coming into this game, and the Saints were 1-1, or maybe anyway. This is the first game in New Orleans after Katrina. And so there you hear it. The Saints, the NFL, back in New Orleans, back in the Superdome. That's the setup, right? So you kind of already see, like, oh, all the people who were betting, because the Falcons came into this thing like a touchdown favorite on the road, and the energy in the Superdome was crazy. The setup was just crazy. And here we are. It's the first quarter, first possession. Atlanta is about to, go 3 and out. And here is the setup. This is the play that really just kind of changed the game. And I want you to watch this. And I want you to tell me if you think it makes any sense that Steve Gleason comes up the middle like that. Just right up the middle, untouched. Like it was like they moved out of the way for him. And I get, like, you can have some breakdowns in protection. It happens from time to time. But this one was like if there was any time where you really needed to just blow the thing open right off the jump, there it is. So that starts the setup for me, right? So I see that, and I'm like, okay, this is something. Some of this stuff's a little bit fishy, but I didn't bet that one or anything. But one that I did take a little action on was this one, Chicago. So I'm going to pause it here. Chicago. This is the Dennis Green. Everybody knows this is the famous "they are who we thought they were" game. Okay, Dennis Green coaching the Arizona Cardinals. The Chicago Bears. This was, I can't remember what week this was. I want to say it was like week 9, or they were undefeated. They were either 8-0 or 5-6-0, something like that. They were on their way. This is the team that ended up going to the Super Bowl and losing to the Colts in the Super Bowl with Rex Grossman at quarterback. How crazy is that? But they had a really good defense. Brian Urlacher leading that defense. Devin Hester was returning kicks and punts all over like crazy. So the setup here is, again, you've got a rookie quarterback who's playing in his first full game. Kurt Warner had gotten hurt, so Matt Leinart is getting his first action. And this Arizona team is a 10-point dog at home. 10-point dog at home. And it's the first Monday night game in Arizona in, I think, like a decade or maybe longer. And it was the first game that this particular iteration of the franchise, because they've been back and forth. They were like the Phoenix Cardinals, and then they went back to the St. Louis. And anyways, they were all over the place. So the fact that the Cardinals were playing in this stadium with, this ownership group and everything, it was a big deal for them to finally have that home game. And it just so happens that, they're a 10-point dog at home. So the setup is, all right, I don't know how it's going to happen, but Chicago will probably still win this game, but they're not going to cover. But you can't have Arizona backdoor their way in to covering, right? That would be a little bit too suspicious, right? Like if Chicago's just dominating this game, they're up by 17 points, and then Arizona scores a touchdown late, and then they go for 2, cut it to 9, then everybody's going to be up in arms like, oh, this is it. It's rigged. This is nonsense. So no, what do you do instead? You let Arizona get out to a big lead early. And so it starts off, they're getting out to this big lead. I'm gonna skip ahead here because what I want you to see is after Rex Grossman, I think he turned the ball over 6 times in this game, and they were all early. But then we get a little bit later in the game, and I think so this is when Arizona scores here.
Cardinals have not picked up a 3rd and 11 or more all season.
Yeah, so this is them. This is them going down and scoring. Okay, so Anquan Bolden scores there. So then Rex Grossman's trying to get things going. He throws another pick. So here we go. Like it's just like they're done. The Bears, the undefeated season for the Bears is going to be officially over, and they're going to have to start licking their wounds and finding a way to come back. And then we got another fumble. Rex Grossman turns the ball over again. We got another fumble. Chicago turns it over again. So it's 17-0 right before halftime. And then here you go. So here's the setup, right? All right, so I'm going to set this up for you. So this is the play I wanted to get to. Now, what's one of the biggest premium positions in NFL football? Left tackle, right? Why? Because the left tackle protects the blind side of the quarterback if the quarterback's right-handed. Now, I'm not saying that you don't invest in your right tackle, but when you're kind of building a franchise and you're starting to build around certain personnel, you can help out on the front side with your quarterback when it's a guy like Kurt Warner, who he's already won a Super Bowl. He's got the ability to see that stuff coming, read the blitz, and get rid of the ball quickly, and you can chip a guy. So we've got a guy here in this right tackle here. I don't even remember his name, but he was making the league minimum at the time of this game. Now, I want you to watch how this man, I'm not saying that somebody paid him to do this or anything like that, but I want you to watch this man on this particular play, and I want you to watch how he protects his left-handed quarterback, because he is the blindside protector for a left-handed quarterback as the right tackle. I want you to watch who he chooses to block and who he chooses to ignore.
College. Second half of the 15, he's hit from behind. Mark Anderson, the hit, the scoop, and score.
So we're gonna watch this play again. They're gonna show another angle of it. This shit's crazy, y'all.
They're waiting for us to make a mistake. Now this is
so.
Not one-liner.
So watch this. Watch where he goes. Watch where he goes with his protection. He blocks no one. He's helping no one. He doesn't even put a hand on anybody.
I mean, I have no earthly idea.
So anyway, the game continues. They turn the ball over a couple of other times. Edgerrin James gets stripped and fumbles, and they run it back for a touchdown. Devin Hester runs a punt back for a touchdown because they punt the ball to him with like 2.5 minutes left. The rest is history. We all saw the video of the post-game interview with Dennis Green, where he says, "They are who we thought they were, but we let them off the hook." That's the setup. That's how this thing went down. And Chicago, I think they won by a field goal or something like that. I think they won 25-23. And then Arizona missed a field goal like at the horn that would have won it. So So I just kind of like tinkered with this one because I was not completely confident in the system, in like the theory, right? So the one where I really did well was this particular game, and I'm going to tell you a little story about this game before it starts off. This is Monday Night Football, Dallas going into Buffalo. Dallas is undefeated in this game. This is week 5. They're 4-0, but they have a game the following week with I think Seattle, who was also undefeated. Or no, it was New England. They had a game with New England, who had just won, and they were undefeated. So you had this potential setup of this great like 5-0 teams facing off against each other early in the season, a potential Super Bowl preview with one of the dominant NFC teams going up against one of the dominant AFC teams. The setup was there. Tony Romo was playing really well at that point in the season. The Cowboys were set up, and I'm looking at this one and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to like play this. And I did a lot of live betting back and forth with this one because I was like, the way these things tend to go is the dog gets out to an early lead, and then the favorite kind of claws their way back and gets back into it. So if you play it right, you can bet the dog early, sell the dog, buy the favorite, and then get back into the game. And then later on in the game, you can just kind of see how it plays and if you want to like really, go all in or not. So I did that. I actually went back and forth with this one. But the big setup for this is just to test myself, because I believe that like accountability, and that's why I'm doing this show here, is because from an accountability standpoint, this theory only matters to the point that like I'm willing to actually put some, money where my mouth is, right? So I went into work on that Monday morning and I told a coworker, it's like, listen, because we were talking about he's a big Saints fan, but he has a lot of friends who are Cowboys fans because we're in Louisiana, and he's right on the border between Louisiana and Texas. So I said, listen, this is how I think this game's going to go down. I have this theory, and I explained all the stuff that I've been explaining to you guys. Went through that Arizona game, went through the Saints Falcons game, and broke it down. I said, look, this is what's going to happen. Some stupid shit's going to happen early. The Cowboys are going to make some really dumb turnovers, just like what Rex Grossman did for Chicago against Arizona. They're going to make some dumb turnovers, and they're going to get down by like 10 points, 2 touchdowns or something like that early. And then they're going to come back and they're going to find a way to win. And they're not going to cover the spread, but they're going to find a way to win because it still sets up that big matchup. But what everybody's looking at is they're seeing that big matchup and they're like, oh no, there's no way they're going to let the Cowboys lose. So because they want that undefeated matchup. Yeah, you're right. You're probably right. They're probably not going to let them lose because they want to see that that big matchup coming up. Or at least they're playing into your thinking of that. And so they set the point spread really, really high when they know that there's a lot of energy in these stadiums, and then it's not going to be so easy for a road team to go into Buffalo and win, regardless of who the quarterback is or anything like that. So Trent Edwards makes his first career start as Buffalo's quarterback, a rookie, and not a good one either. There's a reason why you probably, unless you're a really diehard football fan and you were paying a lot of attention in 2007, you might not even know who Trent Edwards is. That's how little was expected of him in this game, and how little was expected of that entire Buffalo team. However, this is the thing I want to mention to you. This was Buffalo's first time hosting Monday Night Football in 12 years since the Jim Kelly era. Jim Kelly, Thurman Thomas, all those guys, Andre Reed, and you know the deal. Bruce Smith, Bryce Paup, those guys. So this is the first time they're hosting Monday Night Football, and it just happens to be this setup where they're a 10-point dog at home. And sure enough, they start off Monday Night Football, and the stadium is electric. And that's kind of what I'm expecting with this Seattle game coming up this weekend. The stadium is electric, and here's how the game broke down.
Big
right? So
say big
I'm
time.
going to try to turn this down. That's
Tony
kind of
Romo
loud.
on the ball, 4-0 for the first time.
Stuart Scott, be quiet. Talking too loud. 13 years. My apologies. 13 years. So what does Tony Romo do? Boom, pick. And so here we go. It's a touchdown. The Cowboys are down. They're 10-point favorites coming into this game on the road, remember?
I thought Jason was going up the seam.
All right. So we don't need closed captioning. So then here we go. Tony Romo again. Pick again. So you get the deal, right? This is how this thing's going. So what I did with this game is, at this point, I'm big on Buffalo, and I at this point when they scored this touchdown, I'm like, damn man, I must have messed up the bet somehow, something. But then Tony Romo helps me out. Boom, right off of Chris Kelsey's hands into his hands for a touchdown. He catches the ball in the end zone. I've never seen a pick six where the guy actually caught the ball in the end zone until that play. So 3 interceptions all year, 4 interceptions in the first half. 4 interceptions in the first half. Okay, now I know that like you may think like you're crazy. This is some conspiracy theorist BS or whatever. But so I know this weird stuff happens sometimes. It's not, football is a game that you got grown men playing. They're giving their all that stuff. But you don't think it's a little weird that Rex Grossman throws 6 or turns the ball over 6 times? I think it was like 4 picks and 2 fumbles lost in that game. So anyway, so what I did at this point, I'm big on Buffalo. I've got the money in on Buffalo, and I'm starting to feel like, okay, I like this bet, but if they score again, I'm golden, but I don't want to risk it because they may actually turn this over. So I had actually gotten out of the bet at this point and flipped back to the Cowboys because when they were driving, the number was so good for Buffalo and so bad for Dallas that it made sense to flip the money. And then I got lucky here. They got this pick and went that way. So Dallas comes back and they're like about to win this game, it seems like. And then this happens. And so it's like, oh my God, what are you guys doing? Are you trying to lose? So it goes all the way to the end where they're still turning the ball over. The Cowboys had scored a touchdown, but they went for 2 and didn't get it. And so when they scored the touchdown, I knew they had to go for 2 to tie the game and send it into overtime. I sold out because it was the best I could do with the time that was on the clock and everything. I sold out of the Cowboys, and I actually like anticipated they're going to miss this 2-point conversion. So then they missed the 2-point conversion. They went down to like 4% chance to win the game. So I bought it at like 25-1 odds. I bought it back. I was like, it wouldn't surprise me if they get this onside kick and get the field goal. Sure enough, here we go. So needless to say, they go down, they end up getting this field goal. When I show up at work the next day, that dude comes up to me and he's like, bro, how did you know? I was like, I don't know, man. I'm not going to say I knew, but I kind of had a feeling that it would set up like that. So the final game and I actually set some stuff up to make some money off of this game, but I happened to be in Disney World when this game was going on. So I set a bunch of bets automatically to execute. And what ended up happening was, because of the way I had it set up and the way I expected the game to go, my final bet was to put not all of it, but to put a big chunk of whatever I had won up to that point back on the Giants to win this game. And they ended up blowing it. I think they lost. This is another one. They're 10-point favorites going on the road to play against Cleveland. And it was like Derek Anderson. Now they had Braylon Edwards and they had Jamal Lewis, but it was the end of Jamal Lewis's career. So it wasn't the great Jamal Lewis, but it was a solid. This team was a terrible team, but they had some talent where it made sense. And that's back to what I'm saying. You go into the dog pound. So again, a raucous home crowd, home atmosphere where and Cleveland hadn't hosted Monday Night Football in so long that it's set up to where the story can be told that this is just what you expect. So what I'm saying is not necessarily that I'm guaranteeing that Seattle is going to win this game against and I'm going to go ahead and stop. We don't need to go through this game. I guess we can go through a little bit of it. So early on, Derek Anderson hits Braylon Edwards, big play. Then they get I think they get Eli Manning to turn the ball over here. Or no, this is Plexico Burress scores a touchdown here, I think. Yeah, this is. Oh no, they did pick it. All right, yeah, my bad. It's hard for me to remember some of the ways this stuff goes down. But anyway, this is what I really wanted you guys to see. So this is a big play to Braylon Edwards. He gets tripped up at the very end. Otherwise, he would have scored. But Cleveland ends up, taking the lead, and they're starting to pull away. And so everything is going the way I expected it to go. And then this play right here, this is where, all right, so if the Giants score this touchdown, at this point, I'm like, my automated betting thing is like buying the Giants back at this point because they're down and their value is low. If they're inside the 10-yard line, they're at the 9 on 2nd and 4. If they can convert this into a touchdown, they're a touchdown away with Eli Manning, Plexico Burress, and all these guys like Brandon Jacobs and shit. Like it was a good squad. They're in position to win this game, to come back and win this game. And then this happens. Eli does this, and this dude goes coast to coast. Eric Wright, not Easy-E, but Eric Wright nonetheless. But anyway, so that's the setup for this Broncos game. So you got Russell Wilson facing Geno Smith. Seems like there's no chance whatsoever. I'm not saying I guarantee that Seattle's going to win this game, or I guarantee that they're going to cover. What I'm saying is, I sure as hell would not take Denver minus the touchdown, 6.5 or 7 or whatever the line happens to be whenever you pull up to the window. What I would do, though, is I would potentially, this is what I'm going to do. I wouldn't tell you what to do at all, but this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a decent-sized bet on Seattle to, plus the 6.5 or 7, whatever I can get. I'm going to look for the best line I can get, maybe 7.5 even. I'm going to put some money on them to win with the points, right? Then I'm going to, as John Ryan would say, I'm going to sprinkle a little bit on the money line. Okay, and then what I'm going to be looking for is some opportunities to, if it goes the way that these games went, to find a way to put some money back on the other side of it, to take a chance that to cash out some of that, but bank those winnings if those are ahead, and I can cash out those bets at a profit, take some of that profit and only the profit, and flip it back and put it on Denver to actually win that game and not cover. I don't think they're going to cover. That's where I'm going to be placing my money. Is I don't think they're going to cover, and I would not be surprised if Seattle actually wins this one outright. Let's remember, I'm going to go back and I'm going to read to you what I read at the very beginning. Back to 2003, the Seahawks are 17-2 in home openers. Okay, and they won 12 consecutive ones. Now, granted, Russell Wilson was there for 9 of those, and then he was there for the one loss that snapped that streak last year. So the numbers are pretty heavy for that stadium, home openers, and they have not opened their season in Seattle for their home opener on Monday Night Football in the history of the franchise. So that 12th man, that whole that franchise, and the way that they just seem to find a way to make pieces come together, and they can ugly a game up, and it may not be impressive, and I'm not they're not going to be a good team that's going to contend for the Super Bowl this year, but they can mess this one up for Denver. And you add to that Russell Wilson coming back home to that stadium, and as much as those fans love him and what he did for that city and for that franchise, you think they're not going to be going nuts, making it really difficult for him to hear? He's never been on that side of it where, and people mistake this as just this throwaway thing, that home field advantage is this minor thing. When it's an atmosphere like that, and I've seen this a lot in the Superdome with the Saints, the difference between when you're on offense and your quarterback can clearly call out signals, the snap count can be all by sound for you, and the defense has to wait until they see the ball snapped, and you're moving on the snap, on that, on the sound. You're moving on the sound. They're waiting to see the ball. versus flipping it around to where you can't hear anything. And so your offensive linemen, those tackles are looking in at the ball. When your left tackle and right tackle are looking in at the ball, and they're waiting along with the defensive linemen to see the ball move because they can't hear anything, and then they can go back into pass protection. That little beat makes a big difference. Talk to anybody who's played in those situations, and they will tell you it makes a huge difference. That one little half or quarter of a step that D line gets, or that rush outside linebacker gets, trying to get after the quarterback when the offensive line can't go on sound and they have to actually look in and watch for the ball to move. It's a big, big deal. And also, like, you're trying to like audible out of stuff and into stuff, and you're trying to, scream over the top of your lungs. You got to do a lot of hand signals and stuff. It's a different thing for the road team versus the home team in that kind of situation, because Seattle is unique. It's a special place when it comes to that. They're notorious. Their fans are famous for being some of the best, most difficult to play in front of for a road team fans in all of football, in all of sports, really. So don't be surprised. And remember, you heard it here first. If Seattle indeed does pull this off and it goes the way that you saw some of these other games go, the setup. I told you. This is I Got Next. I'm Chad. Appreciate y'all coming through. Peace. I'm out of here.